Amazing story. A shoeless girl shocked a CEO and transformed her life among 25 candidates. Mia Thompson stood outside the massive glass doors of the tech company, her pulse racing and mind swirling. She had already felt the judgment of others before even stepping foot into the building. Shoeless with her thrift store blouse and worn jeans, she eyed the competition with their fresh suits and polished shoes. A wave of self-doubt hit her as she took a deep breath, pressing her lips together. Was it really worth it to rebel against the norms? The murmurs of the crowd let her know the answer, sending a shiver down her spine. This wasn't just an internship. It was her ticket out. The weight of her humble background bore down on her shoulders, making her feel both empowered and overwhelmed. An urban dreamer, raised by a single mother in a crumbling apartment, she had fought tooth and nail to reach this point. But even as the fierce ambition stirred inside her, the gnawing feeling of inadequacy clung to her like a shadow. She glanced down, feeling the uneven ground beneath her bare feet. It was a symbol of her defiance. Yet every moment spent in the polished space of her competitors felt surreal. She could practically hear each suit whispering judgments. Look at her. No shoes. Then her gaze caught the powerful CEO. A woman with piercing eyes and a confident air. Mia's heart raced. Did her mind betray her? Was there a hint of recognition or remorse in the CEO's gaze? No, that couldn't be right. As the introduction echoed through the hall, Mia's internal conflict raged within her. She longed to prove herself yet feared being drowned out. Could authenticity really outshine such polish and privilege? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Every brainstorming session brought new challenges. Shares of laughter behind her back, glances of condescension. It was suffocating. She felt the weight of her ambitions juxtaposed against snide remarks, each one slicing through her resolve. Her heart raced, torn between proving her worth and honoring her upbringing. She envisioned a project that celebrated diversity in tech, a bold declaration fueled by her personal battles. But it was in that very ambition she stumbled upon a painful truth. Her mentor was not the guardian angel she believed, but rather entangled in something murky. A web of insidious corporate corruption. What was she supposed to do? Disloyalty felt like a betrayal. Yet following her mentor would mean sacrificing her very essence. Her stomach twisted with anxiety, her thoughts spiraling into darkness where ideals collided with the seductive shimmer of success. As she prepared her final presentation, doubt gnawed at her confidence. The stakes felt impossibly high. The CEO would be in attendance, and every part of her was desperate to impress. Yet she couldn't shake off the image of her childhood barefoot on parched grass, filled with dreams that were often dismissed. Now, with everything on the line, the tension thickened. Standing backstage, she could feel the weight of 1,000 ambitions pressing down on her, as uncertainty gnawed at her insides. She had a choice to make. Do she chase success? Or does she stay true to who she was? The air was thick with anticipation as she stepped out. The audience's eyes locked onto her. What if they never saw her? What if she never freed herself from the chains of her past? And each step she took only cemented it further. Her heart thundered in her chest, and just before she reached the podium, a shattering realization hit her that could alter everything. Uncertainty surged inside her, the path forward shrouded in mystery, leaving her standing on the precipice, caught in the storm of her own tumultuous emotions. The lights dimmed, casting long shadows across the stage. Mia stood at the center, her breath hitching as she faced the sea of expectant faces. The murmurs faded, replaced by an agonizing silence that pressed against her like a vice. Her eyes flitted towards the CEO, who regarded her with an inscrutable expression, igniting a flicker of hope intertwined with fear. Could she really make an impression standing barefoot among giants? This was her moment, but it also felt like stepping into an abyss. The rush of adrenaline surged through her body as she took a step forward, grounding herself with the familiar texture of the wooden platform beneath her. What if she collapsed under the weight of their expectations? This wasn't just a presentation. It was a declaration of who she was, a voice for those who often went unheard. The anxiety shivered through her, sinking deep, but an ember of resolve ignited in her heart. She could not let this slip away. Mia opened her mouth to speak, the words spilling out like water from a dam, raw and unfiltered. She recounted her journey, sharing fragments of her past, how each challenge sculpted her tenacity, how her bare feet had traversed both rocky roads and flourishing fields of dreams. She wove a narrative of struggle mingled with hope, the laughter she had heard growing up, and the barriers she had fought to break. Each story resonated, painful, yet liberating, and she watched as the audience began to shift, an undeniable connection forming amidst the tension. The CEO's eyes locked onto hers, and Mia felt a surge of courage. This woman, sitting in judgment of her raw vulnerability, could either validate or dismiss her ambition. The stakes felt too high, yet Mia channeled her fear into passion, articulating her vision. A tech initiative that enlisted the power of diverse minds, urging the industry to reevaluate the narrow definitions of competence and innovation. As she delved deeper into her proposal, the whispers faded into silence. She could feel the eyes of her competitors boring into her, the disbelief palpable. Yet something remarkable happened. In that moment the weight of judgment lifted, revealing a lighter reality. Her words electrified the air. She was no longer just an intern. She was a changemaker, challenging the status quo, defying the odds. Mia's passion ignited a fire not just within herself, but in the hearts of those listening. She noticed nods of agreement, expressions transforming from skepticism to intrigue. As she approached the conclusion, she dared to look the CEO directly in the eyes, challenging her to judge beyond appearances. The final note lingered in the air as she stepped back, allowing the weight of her truths to settle over the audience. Her heart pounded in anticipation, anxiety clawing at her insides while she awaited the response of the CEO. Would her words resonate, or would they simply fade into the echoing walls? Then it happened. A slow clap began, followed by another, and soon the sound erupted into thunderous applause. Relief washed over Mia, a dizzy euphoria sweeping through her as she absorbed the collective acclaim. But within that wave of joy, shadows crept back into her mind, whispers reminding her of the betrayal she had uncovered in her mentor's actions, how their paths may no longer align. Stepping off the stage, Mia confronted her next dilemma: how to honor her own integrity while navigating this newfound spotlight. The applause felt like victory, but it came with an urgent inquiry: would she take the easy road paved by her mentor, or forge a new path of authenticity? As she left the auditorium, uncertainty mingled with elation. She had birthed a new identity on that stage, but the truth loomed larger. It was not the end of her story, but rather the beginning of a more complex journey, spiraling towards a confrontation that would unravel loyalty and test her principles. The next step loomed over her. She had to decide whom to trust and how to navigate the treacherous waters ahead. Would she stand strong in her newfound voice, or would she falter under the weight of unexpected revelations? Mia stepped out into the hallway, the sound of applause still echoing in her ears, but the thrill had quickly morphed into a shadow of doubt. Every step she took felt heavier, weighed down by the looming decision of whether to reach out to her mentor, or to distance herself from the tangled web he had created. The applause had been exhilarating, a validation of her new identity, yet it also unveiled an urgency for self-reflection. In her mind, the voices of her colleagues filled the silence, their skepticism, their disbelief all refuted by her display of confidence on stage. The contrast between that moment of vulnerability and the escalating tension within her mind was jarring. Was she simply riding a tide of success? Or was this the beginning of a transformative journey? Each direction she considered revealed starkly different paths. She found a quiet corner, the walls adorned with inspiring quotes that, moments before, had felt like cliches but now seemed to beckon her onward. Mia leaned against the wall, feeling the cool surface against her back as she scoured her thoughts. She pictured the SHOELESS eyes, once inscrutable but now full of intrigue. Would that interest persist once the applause faded? Did she dare to assume her ideas would hold weight beyond this moment? Her pulse quickened at the thought. The potential for far-reaching impact swelled within her. But then there was her mentor, a figure who had both guided and betrayed her. Their recently fractured relationship loomed larger and confrontational. He had nurtured her talents, molded her beginnings, Yet the integrity of that relationship was now tainted by his actions. The idea of presenting her new vision, a vision that lay far removed from his ideals, felt like both an exhilarating liberation and a daunting cliff. Was it worth risking everything built up to this point? Deciding to take the plunge, Mia stood more upright, inhaling deeply. To honor her integrity, she needed to reach out, but not in pursuit of alignment. A message would suffice. Clarity, she thought to herself, and the need for honesty guided her toward her phone as she thumbed through her contacts. Her fingers hovered over her mentor's name. Should she send a message celebrating her success alongside her wish for a deeper conversation? That would reveal her newfound strength, challenging the bounds he had set for her. But the clouds of doubt quickly gathered again. Sending the message felt like exposing herself to potential rejection, a risk embedded in uncertainty. Moments ticked by, the world around her faded while her heart raced. That confrontation, more than troubling, became inevitable. Each choice defined her journey. The simplicity of sending that message could either ignite a revelation in their relationship or unravel it completely. Finally, with a decisive breath, she typed, "I'd like to discuss my presentation and the future with you. There are things we need to address." She pressed send, an electric jolt shooting through her as she released her finger from the screen. As she stepped away from the wall, Mia resolved to brace herself for whatever response would come. Perhaps she would maintain the clarity of her voice, steadfast in her pursuit of transparency, ready to embrace uncertainty again. She realized she was on the brink of something deeper. The impending confrontation with her mentor didn't just hinge on their relationship, but on her own understanding of what it meant to stand up for herself. Bursting forth from her quiet corner, Mia headed back into the vibrant chaos. The future was still unwritten, but her spirit surged with the promise of what was to come. In the distance, a group of competitors eyed her with mixed expressions: curiosity, calculation, and perhaps even respect. If she was to forge ahead, she couldn't merely confront her mentor. The time had come to uncover her own power and face not only the external challenges, but also the internal battles that would define her. Would she uphold her newfound voice, glean power from the uncertainty, or risk sinking back into familiarity's embrace? The exhilaration of the applause seemed to lift Mia's spirits momentarily, but as she navigated through the throngs of her colleagues, the weight of her decision crushed down again. What had felt like an undeniable certainty only moments ago now seemed to tremble at the edges of her resolve. She had sent the message. Now she needed to prepare for the conversation that could redefine everything. Mia took a shaky breath. The multitude of eyes on her had transformed from the fervent admiration she had felt on stage to what now seemed like sharp scrutiny. The very people who had cheered her on began to flicker their judgments in hushed whispers. She had always been the one to follow, the mentee who thrived in the shadow of her inspirational mentor. But today, she must step into her own light, a choice that, until now, had felt terrifying. She paused at a high table near the refreshment stand. The lingering scent of coffee mingled with the excitement in the air, an invitation for reflection. This could be her moment to claim her narrative. With a cup of steaming coffee in hand, nothing felt quite as simple as it used to. The taste of ideas now lingered bitterly on her tongue, the stark contrast to the burgeoning ambition she had tasted on stage. If Mia were to evolve professionally, she needed to reclaim the narrative of her journey, a journey that not only demanded respect but also required her own endorsement. That thought alone fueled her next actions. She caught the gaze of one of her colleagues, a sharp-eyed observer who had been critical of her previous work. As their eyes met, she felt both challenged and emboldened. Was she truly ready to engage in a conversation that might shake the very foundation of her career? Moments later, her phone buzzed, shattering her contemplation with a jolt of adrenaline. It was a response from her mentor. "I'll meet you tomorrow at 3 p.m. Let's discuss." The mixture of dread and excitement surged through her system. The impending discussion felt like standing before a precipice with an uncertain view of the ground below. Mia knew she couldn't go unprepared. Each word exchanged would weigh heavily. She needed to gather her thoughts, her intentions honed to precision. In the back of her mind echoed both the admiration she felt for her mentor and the disillusionment that had blossomed in recent months. Could she directly challenge the very person who had once illuminated her path? Would he even accept the contrast of their views? With renewed determination, she sought out a quiet area, grabbing her notebook and pen. The act of writing now felt like armor. As she wrote down her vision clear, unyielding, and authentic, she pondered over the potential pitfalls. What would she say about their broken trust? About the divergence of her professional vision? As the ink formed her thoughts, she began to understand that this wasn't merely a discussion about her stance but an introspection into what she truly believed. Would she risk it all for what she desired? Clarity came with the understanding that this moment could very well be the turning point of her career, the scenario that unraveled the very fibers of her identity as both a professional and an individual. Amidst the flurry of words, a flicker of doubt remained. What if her mentor dismissed her? What if this confrontation resulted in a chasm wider than she anticipated? The stakes were high, but so was her sense of resolve. Mia realized she had come far from the girl overwhelmed by shadows. Now she was on the brink of confronting her truth, no longer afraid of the darkness, but ready to step boldly into the light. And as the thoughts flowed onto the page, a compelling realization emerged. Her next move could either entrench her in her mentor's traditional confines or free her to articulate a bold new direction. Tomorrow's meeting loomed large, not only as a test of her professional resolve, but as a crucial moment of personal affirmation. Would she break free from the past and reshape their relationship, or find herself enmeshed in old paradigms? The hour was closing in, her heart racing as anticipation settled in. This wasn't merely about the conversation. It was about unleashing her true potential. Would she be able to assert herself in a world designed for voices much older and seemingly wiser? As she closed her notebook, Mia felt an electric pulse of determination surge through her. The path was set, but the foundation was still shaking beneath her feet. And she would face it all head-on, come what may. The clock ticked on the wall, each second amplifying Mia's anticipation as she prepared for what could be the defining moment of her career. The morning light streamed through her window, casting long shadows that danced across her cluttered desk. Her notebook lay before her, its pages filled with thoughts that flickered like fireflies, illuminating her path forward. She stared at the words she had painstakingly written, feeling the weight of each one settle into her skin as she slipped into her jacket. A wave of confidence washed over her. The sharp yet familiar scent of the fabric grounded her in the moment, a reminder that she was no longer the timid girl who merely accepted second place. She was ready to confront the very forces that had shaped her, the mentor whose shadow had both protected and confined her. Today she would not just recall her aspirations. She would articulate them with conviction. Mia arrived at their meeting spot early, her heart pulsating in rhythm with her thoughts. The cafe buzzed with a vibrant energy that she usually found comforting. Today, however, it felt almost suffocating as she observed the bustling professionals around her, immersed in their own conversations. They laughed, shared ideas, and projected confidence. She felt herself blend into the background, but only for a moment. Now was not the time for self-doubt. When her mentor entered, he wore the familiar expression of measured wisdom. The tightness around his eyes suggested a threshold of respect for Mia's previous efforts, but also an unwillingness to let go of the traditional views they had always upheld. As he approached, she felt the weight of their history. This was more than a meeting. It was a crucible for transformation. They exchanged pleasantries, but the air thickened with unspoken anticipation. Seating themselves in the corner, surrounded by the clinking of cups and muted conversations, Mia took a deep breath, ready to strike. "Mia, I'm curious about your thoughts on our last project," he began, a hint of expectation framing his tone. A ripple of adrenaline coursed through her. "I have to say, I feel that we missed a critical opportunity to evolve," she countered, her voice steadier than she felt. "The approach we took doesn't align with current trends, nor does it respect the potential our team has to innovate." His eyebrows lifted, a blend of shock and intrigue dancing in his expression. "You think we should change our direction utterly?" "Yes. I believe we should adopt a more flexible framework that allows for creative input from all levels. It's important to create a space where contributions don't just come from the top down," Mia stated, the words flowing more fluidly with each passing second. As she spoke, her heart raced. She was navigating a precarious balance, asserting her perspective, while managing her mentor's inherent authority. The discussion deepened, with each point met with thoughtful consideration from her mentor. The initial tension began to shift into something unexpected, a dialogue rich with potential. Yet, the conversations were not devoid of challenges. He would assert traditional views, and she would rebuff them, not out of rebellion but from a place of profound belief in her vision. The engagement stirred something within Mia, a realization that the idea she brought forth mattered significantly. As the discussion drew to a close, he leaned back, contemplation etched in his features. "You've offered an astonishing perspective, Mia. It's clear you've put a lot of thought into this." Encouraged, she pressed on. "I'd like the opportunity to lead a pilot project reflecting this new direction. I know that my approach might seem unconventional, but I believe it's the way forward." His gaze held hers longer than before, a challenging spark igniting the conversation. "You've surprised me today, Mia. I need to consider this. You may just be on to something groundbreaking." The clock struck, marking the end of their time together. Yet Mia felt a shift that she hadn't expected. The conversation challenged not only her professional standing but her very identity. Had she truly tapped into a part of herself that had lain dormant for too long? As she left, the euphoria of the moment mingled with uncertainty. Could she hold fast to this newly found assertiveness when faced with future setbacks? Tomorrow would bring more challenges, but a faint whisper in her mind reassured her she was more than capable. And in this newfound light, Mia realized there was a greater battle ahead, not just against external opposition, but against the self-imposed restrictions she had long allowed to dictate her worth. What awaited her now was not only the pressure of her professional growth but a deep dive into her own depths. Would she harness this energy and claim her rightful place, or would she falter back into the shadows once more? The answer hung tantalizingly close, just out of reach, awaiting her discovery. The days that followed the pivotal meeting surged with both anticipation and trepidation. Mia found herself oscillating between euphoric exhilaration from her assertiveness and a persistent line of anxiety that stitched through her thoughts. As she navigated her daily responsibilities, she became increasingly aware of the heaviness of expectation, both her own and that of her mentor, now weighing her down. She spent countless hours devising a detailed plan for the pilot project she had proposed, pouring everything into research and gathering insights from various sources. Each graph and statistic she analyzed stoked both her ambition and her self-doubt. The questions stacked high: would they validate her revolutionary ideas or throw her into the depths of embarrassment? The office had taken on an almost electric ambience as whispers circulated about Mia's newfound confidence after her last meeting. Colleagues, once indifferent, now regarded her with keen interest, gauging whether her attempt at transformation could withstand the pressure of reality. Her choices now influenced the whispers like rippling effects in a pond. She met their curious gazes with a steady resolve, refusing to cower back behind any masks she previously wore. At times, the isolation of this newfound journey became evident. She sensed the skepticism among her peers, especially those who had relied on traditional methods for far too long. Conversations shifted when she entered the room, the uncertainty of her proposal drawing both intrigue and challenge. Mia learned quickly that asserting herself meant standing firmly in uncomfortable scrutinies, yet each confrontation pushed her boundaries further, eradicating the self-doubt that had once harbored in the corners of her mind. As Mia prepared for the upcoming presentation of her idea to not only her mentor but also the greater strategic board composed of influential stakeholders, a knot of apprehension tightened in her stomach. The night before, sleepless and replaying her rehearsed lines with fervor, she decided to seek solace through reflection. Sitting at her desk, candlelight flickered across the room, revealing her past work, a tapestry woven from constancy but frayed by missed opportunities. She took pride that a spark of passion had finally ignited within her, one that could either illuminate her path forward or set her ablaze. In the stillness, Mia deliberated over her past interactions with the board, recalling the dismissive glances and unreciprocated enthusiasm she had faced. Would she come to represent an outlier navigating a system resistant to change? Or was she on the brink of dismantling barriers and reshaping those around her? Uncertainty hammered against her resolve, but clarity suddenly pierced her thoughts. The confrontation would not merely be about challenging ideas but about reclaiming her narrative, reasserting her worth, and redefining what success looked like on her terms. For the first time, she recognized her intentions echoed louder than the audience's judgments. It wasn't solely about a project. It was about a life led with conviction, authenticity, and all-encompassing ambition. The following morning, as she sat in the tranquil cafe where her journey began, a steady beat of determination surged through her once again. Clenching her notebook, she prepared to advocate not only for her concept, but for herself with unyielding authenticity. She was determined to be the architect of her narrative going forward. Each presentation demanded a blend of logic and art, a performance that required her to stand firmly and articulate her vision, while maintaining an unwavering belief in her capability. As she walked towards the boardroom, the door loomed like a gateway to her future, one that felt both exhilarating and terrifying. Mia took one last deep breath before gripping the handle. The moment of truth awaited her on the other side. Would she rise to the challenge, or would the weight of expectation buckle her resolve? As the door swung wide, she sensed a new reality unfold, thick with potential and fraught with the risk of failure. With a pounding heart, she stepped into the room, ready to confront not just the board but the very essence of who she had become. Would the risk she was about to take elevate her to new heights, or would it unravel the fragile threads of the journey she had begun? Mia entered the boardroom, the air thick with expectation. As she glanced around, each member's gaze bore into her like lasers, dissecting her every movement. The long table stretched before her, adorned with laptops, notepads, and increasingly skeptical expressions. She felt the weight of the moment compress around her, squeezing tight her racing heart. With a steadying breath, Mia unfolded her proposal, the meticulously crafted slides glowing back at her like a promise. "Thank you for taking the time to meet with me today," she began, her voice unwavering, though she felt everything inside her quiver slightly. "I am excited to present a pilot project that I believe could revolutionize our approach." As she moved through her presentation, her words painted a vivid picture of her vision. Each statistic was a brushstroke, each trend a foundation upon which she was building her case. Yet in the midst of articulating her ideas, she sensed a familiar shadow creeping in, self-doubt whispering that perhaps this was too bold, too radical for the status quo. She forced herself to focus, knowing that reframing those fears served as her best ally in squashing those inner demons. "Your company has always prided itself on innovation," she said, making direct eye contact with her mentor, who nodded encouragingly. "This project aligns seamlessly with our core values and has the potential for a considerable return on investment." She glanced at the board members, noting one of the older executives, a man infamous for dismissing new ideas, raising an eyebrow in skepticism. "Ms. Foster, this sounds ambitious," he interjected, challenging her. "Have you considered the risks involved?" A million thoughts flooded her head, but one mantra blared through. "Don't falter. Every innovation carries risk. However, calculated risks lead to breakthroughs. I've done my homework and prepared comprehensive mitigation strategies to address potential pitfalls," she replied, her voice gaining strength as she presented her counterarguments. Mia could feel the shift, subtle but undeniably there. The board's attentiveness spiked, and the whispers halted. Some even leaned in, their interest pricked. It ignited something inside her, a spark fueled by the realization that she was not just defending her project, she was embodying her right to occupy that space, to ensure that her voice mattered. The tense exchanges continued, probing her assumptions, dissecting her conclusions. Each question felt like a hurdle, but she navigated effortlessly, fueled by the adrenaline of affirming her expertise. With every response that she mastered, her self-assuredness blossomed further. Here stood a woman who not only belonged in this arena but was also capable of reshaping it. As the presentation concluded, silence engulfed the room, thick and expectant. Mia was drenched in adrenaline, her palms slightly sweaty as she awaited a verdict. This was more than just the outcome of a project. It felt like a defining moment, a recognition, after years of being overlooked, of her rightful place within the organization. The chairman finally spoke, his voice measured yet encouraging. "Thank you for your thoughtful presentation, Mia. Your approach is compelling. We will need time to deliberate, but you've undoubtedly given us a lot to consider." Relief flooded her, but dread lurked just under the surface. The shadows of uncertainty had shifted to the back of her mind, but they persisted. What if they still turned her down? What if this was merely another exercise in futility, destined to slip away like countless opportunities before? As she walked out of the boardroom, a wave of mixed emotions crashed over her, hope intermingled with the spectrum of potential failure. Yet, a part of her remained buoyant, fortified by the knowledge she had stood her ground. With determination thrumming in her pulse, Mia felt a stirring goal emerge, one that was less about the project and more about asserting herself within the industry that had tried to confine her. There was strength in vulnerability, and in learning to challenge herself openly, she had realized there was even more to uncover. Tomorrow would unfold new challenges, and she was ready to face them armed with insights she had never known existed. The guiding question now danced in her mind. What other walls could she break down if she continued to embrace this transformative path? The thought hung heavily. The threads of possibility seemed endless. As she exited the building, a surprising realization struck her. While the fear of failure remained, so did an unwavering desire to redefine success on her own terms. Would she continue to rise, or would the echoes of doubt pull her back down? The uncertainty loomed, electric and enticing. Mia took a deep breath as she stepped into the sun-drenched office the following morning, an invigorating contrast to the shade of uncertainty that had cloaked her the day before. Having navigated the boardroom as scrutiny and left an impression, a new vigor coursed through her. The presentation was behind her, but the ripple effects of her courage, the echo of commitment to her vision, had begun to resonate. She settled at her desk, fingers hovering over the keyboard. Every keystroke felt heavier today, weighted by the looming anticipation of feedback on her proposal. What would the board decide? Would they push her ideas forward, or would they still cling to convention? To silence those persistent questions, she turned to her tasks, focusing on her daily responsibilities. Perhaps busying herself would drown out the nagging thoughts that swirled like a storm in her mind. As she glanced at her agenda, a meeting with her mentor, Derek, popped up. It had been scheduled before her presentation, but now it felt more poignant. Derek had always been an anchor, a guiding force when her confidence wavered. When he entered her office, his warm smile was a beacon of reassurance. "Mia, you truly shone in there," he said, settling into a chair and leaning forward, eyes bright with encouragement. "Your ability to articulate your vision while countering objections was commendable." Gratitude flooded her, but a flicker of humility followed. She wasn't used to praise, especially of this magnitude. The clasp of self-doubt tightened, but she remained composed. "Thank you, Derek. But what if they still reject the proposal?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. He leaned back, regarding her with a thoughtful expression. "That's a possibility, but it's not the end of your journey. This experience is about more than just one project. It's about asserting your voice and building your reputation. Remember, every great leader has faced rejection." His words ignited a determination within her. The ability to endure hardship had never been foreign to her. This was merely a stepping stone. Yet, the fear of failure loomed over her like a dark cloud, causing her stomach to knot with anxiety. "Have you considered where you want to go from here?" he probed gently, shifting the focus back to her professional development. She paused, considering the question. "I want to explore strategies that will help me present my ideas with even more authority and creativity, without the shadow of hesitation." She felt a ripple of conviction with each word. Affirming her desire for growth in this manner felt almost rebellious, but liberating at once. "Great. There's a leadership workshop coming up next week that might be beneficial. It focuses on strategic risk-taking and innovative thinking." Mia's curiosity piqued. It was essential to equip herself with skills that transcended conventional boundaries. "I'd like to sign up," she declared, feeling a blend of dread and excitement about breaking new ground. This was about more than just the proposal. It was about developing her capacity to inspire others, to push against the barriers that confined her. The conversation shifted gears, and they discussed potential projects that could marry their distinct focuses. Collaborating with Derek had always offered her insights into his strategic mind. As they traded ideas, Mia sensed a crucial shift. She was no longer just responding to challenges, she was actively shaping outcomes. This transition fueled her ambition. Yet, as the meeting concluded, the weight of what lay ahead pressed down on her. Would the workshop provide the tools she sought? Could she harness this momentum to truly challenge the perceptions surrounding her? Outside, the world buzzed with activity, but inside her, a quiet determination was brewing. She had begun to recognize the change within herself, the newly solidified resolve to propel her voice, her vision, and her values forward. But beneath the surface, a seed of doubt lingered. As she prepared to leave for the day, she paused in front of the large windows overlooking the cityscape. The question lingered in her mind. What would happen when she stepped out of her comfort zone? Would she rise to the occasion or retreat under the weight of fear yet again? The uncertainty sparked electric butterflies in her stomach. The path ahead felt daunting yet enticing, filled with the potential for growth and revelation. How far could she push herself if she dared to challenge the very limits she had accepted for so long? The next chapter awaited her, shrouded in curiosity and determination. The workshop loomed ahead like a distant star, a beacon promising transformation. Mia threw herself into the days leading up to it, driven by a growing sense of urgency to prepare. She spent her evenings poring over material related to leadership techniques and innovative strategies, anything that would bolster her presence and refine her voice. The weight of anticipation nested deep within her, sometimes distracting her during her regular tasks, but it was also fueling a fire she hadn't fully recognized before. When the day of the workshop finally arrived, Mia felt a mix of exhilaration and anxiety. Dressed in her favorite blazer, she hoped it would infuse her with confidence. As she entered the building, the bright lobby buzzed with other attendees, each face reflecting a combination of ambition and expectation. There they were, 25 individuals who were presumably just as eager to prove themselves. It felt like a beautiful chaos. A competition of sorts, but one that thrived on collaboration. After the introductory round, where everyone shared their backgrounds and expectations, the facilitator outlined the day's tasks. Today is about breaking through the barriers of traditional thinking and taking strategic risks, she announced, gleaming enthusiasm in her eyes. Mia clutched her notepad tightly as they broke into smaller groups for an assigned project. Each group was tasked with proposing a solution to a real-world problem the company faced. The thrill of collaboration stirred something potent within her, igniting an urge to assert herself, to be bold. With her group members brainstorming animatedly, Mia listened intently, yet a doubt simmered beneath the surface. Despite her aspirations, part of her still wrestled with the need for validation. What if her ideas weren't good enough? It took every bit of courage not to shrink back when others dominated the conversation. This was her opportunity to shift the dynamics of situations like these, but it was so easy to fade into the background. Yet, an imperative thought struck her. Would she act on her vision or cower before it? Drawing a deep breath, Mia interjected. What if we approached the issue from a customer-centered perspective? Instead of looking at it from the inside out, how about we gather data directly from users? Her voice cut through the group's discussions like a knife through fog. The room quieted and all eyes turned to her. For a fleeting moment she felt exposed. Then before she could retreat into her shell, the momentum shifted. Her suggestion sparked vigorous conversation. People began brainstorming systems to collect feedback, and the energy propelled itself forward. Encouraged by their engagement, Mia gathered strength. As they collaborated, she found herself honing her skills in real time. She guided discussions, asked probing questions, and challenged assumptions. The doubt faded as her vision took shape, and she felt the liberating weight of ownership settle on her shoulders. The workshop culminated in each group presenting their solutions. As she stood at the front, her heart raced. Would they resonate with her ideas? After an impactful presentation that interwove data, emotional narratives, and innovative approaches, she watched as her peers applauded, their looks of appreciation igniting an empowering warmth. When the facilitator wrapped up the session, praising their efforts, Mia felt a pervasive sense of accomplishment. It was more than just sharing her ideas. It was stepping into her identity as a leader. Embracing her voice had not only amplified her presence but had also built an unshakable connection with her peers. As the day wound down, one thought dominated her mind. This was only the beginning. The transformation she sought was unearthing hidden strengths within her, revealing a leader ready to push through whatever obstacles stood in her path. On her way home, fueled by exhilaration, she realized that her journey was far from linear. It was a tapestry of triumphs and struggles woven into an intricate design of growth. But amidst the glow of her experience, a whisper of something ominous crept in. The board meeting results would arrive soon. Were her newfound skills enough to withstand the upcoming confrontation with the decision-makers? Mia's resolve hardened. She couldn't let uncertainty cloud the progress she had made. The coming days would be the true test, the moment where she would face judgment not just from the board, but from herself. Could she stand tall, even if the worst decision loomed ahead? The answer awaited her, pushing her forward toward the brink of conflict and resolution. The moment had arrived. Mia stood at the threshold of her office, heart pounding in anticipation. The email alert pinged on her phone announcing the board's decision. As she opened it, the juxtaposition of hope and dread intertwined in her chest. She had done everything to prepare for this moment, not just the proposal, but the journey leading up to it. Congratulations, Mia. We are excited to move forward with your pilot project. The words danced on the screen, igniting a rush of triumph that burst through her body. For the first time, her aspirations had not only been recognized but celebrated. She had proven herself. A triumphant wave surged within her, and she laughed almost incredulously. Gone were the days of anxiety and self-doubt. This was a moment of pure validation. As she stepped into the office, her colleagues greeted her with a mix of surprise and admiration. She had transcended the role of the underdog, transforming her identity into that of a confident leader. The murmurs of disbelief that once echoed through the halls shifted into ones of respect. Mia no longer felt invisible. She had transformed the narrative, and the shadows of her beginning seemed distant. Yet, amidst the excitement, Mia felt a weight settle gently on her shoulders. A responsibility had emerged, one that extended beyond her project. She now stood as a role model for others who may feel marginalized or doubt their capabilities. This opportunity was hers, but it was also a chance to uplift voices that traditionally went unheard. In no time, she gathered her thoughts, understanding that with great success comes the obligation to mentor others along the way. Mia organized a gathering to share insights from her experience, crafting a space where her colleagues could express their ideas and frustrations, just as she once had done. As she prepared to speak, an overwhelming sense of belonging washed over her. She wasn't just sharing a story. She was cultivating a culture that embraced innovation and authenticity. Let us create an environment where everyone feels empowered to share their thoughts, Mia declared to the team, her voice steady and confident. We can make strides in how we define success and collaboration. The room erupted with enthusiasm, each participant eager to contribute. That day, she witnessed the burgeoning camaraderie of her colleagues, and it filled her with pride to have cultivated a fertile ground for growth. Moments turned into months, and as the pilot project took off, the success was palpable. Teams collaborated harmoniously, diverse voices echoed in meetings, and innovation thrived. Mia found herself recognized not just as an accomplished individual, but as a pillar of transformative leadership within the organization. Then the day came when she received an unexpected email from the CEO, who requested a meeting. Tension grew as she prepared, but the earlier lessons of her journey resonated loud and clear. Authenticity and courage were her allies. In the conference room, the CEO greeted her with a knowing smile. Mia, the impact of your project has exceeded our expectations. I'd like to discuss your future here, and the potential for you to lead key strategic initiatives. With those words, the room brightened. Her hard work had culminated in this significant moment of recognition. She talked through her vision, her articulation purposeful and unwavering. This wasn't just about her success, this was about fueling a movement of inclusivity and creative thought within the company. As she concluded, the CEO leaned back, clearly impressed. You have a remarkable capacity for leadership. Consider this an offer to join our executive team. Mia's heart raced, but this time it wasn't out of fear. It was pure exhilaration. Upon receiving such an opportunity, she reflected on her journey from the meek girl standing barefoot in front of those glass doors, to a confident leader poised to impact change. It was a testimony to her unwavering dedication to being true to herself, her ideals, and unflinching in the face of adversity. With a steady voice, she accepted the offer, but also made an important addition. I want to continue nurturing the culture of innovation we've started. It is critical that we maintain a focus on inclusivity as we scale, she insisted, a palpable fervor igniting in her spirit. This was her moment, the culmination of struggle, growth, and realization that her voice truly mattered. As she left the meeting, Mia felt an overwhelming sense of fulfillment enveloping her. She had transformed her narrative. Now she was not just a part of the company's future, but a beacon guiding it toward a new horizon. The journey was not merely about her ambitions anymore, it had evolved into a commitment to lifting others along with her. The path forward was certain, yet it was filled with possibilities, each promising a brighter future grounded in authenticity, courage, and resilience. Mia was ready, having proved to herself and the world that genuine authenticity can conquer any challenge. Now is the time for you to step up. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories that inspire personal transformation. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support for these incredible journeys. Comment below with your reactions and theories about Mia's impactful conclusion. And don't wait even one more second, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness the power of determination and growth.